showing on Facebook, it's showing like a square.
Well, we are live on YouTube, which is the last place to be
Oh, there
live
we go.
on.
There we go. Okay. Yep. Now we're good.
So welcome everybody to the Gunner Technology Livestream, a weekly 20-minute tech talk for non-techies and techies alike. I'm your host, Derry Merkins. With me again, Cody Swan, CEO of Gunner Technology. How you doing, Cody?
I'm doing good. It's freezing here. All the windows are open, and it was like 36 degrees. So I did suck it up and took off the hoodie. I de-Zuckerberged and got presentable for our real show. Which I know you were in bed yesterday, but it was a dress down Wednesday yesterday for the pop-up episode.
Did you guys get snow?
No.
Does Florida ever get snow?
Not in my lifetime has we ever gotten snow this far south. We saw like a little bit of flurries when I was in Gainesville at one point. But no, Florida does not get snow very often. But in this season, I know Tallahassee's actually gotten standing snow, and I think Orlando may have saw.
Yeah, because I know the Outer Banks in Carolina got snow. They got a ton of snow, which I'm heading back to. So,
and it's like if there's ever a civil war again, the North can easily win just by dumping a bunch of snow on the South, because everything just comes to a grinding halt in the South when there's snow on
the ground. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Country Shore Outfitters, a lifestyle brand for anyone who loves the outdoors. And we have another winner this week of our Country Shore hat giveaway. So Bonnie from Los Angeles is the big winner this week. Congratulations, Bonnie. Keep an eye out for a hat coming your way. And everyone go check out countryshoreoutfitters.com for a bunch of Country Shore swag.
I was going to make a Bonnie and Clyde joke, but I don't actually know what crimes they committed. Were they bank robbers?
Yeah, I know they drove around a lot. They might have Tommy gun tomfoolery.
Bonnie, we're sending you a brand new Tommy gun.
So keep an eye out for that. Get excited. And I guess that covers all the intro stuff. So we can jump right into it because we've sort of wasted 5 minutes already. The topic this week, or the question of the week, is Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple, the big four. How did they become the big four? And well, I guess next week's topic, this is part one. Next week's topic is going to be, can anyone compete with them? But for this week is, how did we get to this point?
Yeah, it's really interesting because we've kind of talked about this, or at least touched on this in previous episodes, where we kind of have a new brave new world now, or an actual brave new world, where these four companies are kind of positioning
a brave new world,
a brave new heart, a brave Bob Newhart world,
the Brave Newhart show.
And kind of there's these four companies, and to explain it a little bit, you have, and I always get three of the four and always forget the four, so you can remind me. So basically, you have Google controlling what you see on the internet. You have Amazon, which basically has a two-prong attack, controls all of what you buy and also what powers the internet. You have Apple, which is kind of controls the hardware you use to get on the internet. And then you have Facebook, which kind of, is that what we said? Facebook was the fourth one? Facebook was the fourth.
Correct. Yeah.
Facebook kind of controls how you communicate on the internet. So obviously, not just because we are in the industry, but we're kind of saying we're leaning toward the internet as the future. And so these four companies kind of have a stranglehold on certain sectors of the internet. And of course, we leave out some of the big ones like power companies and things like that. So how do they get this way? Google, I guess we can start with first. I guess it's as good as any. And basically, they became the de facto search engine of the internet. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but if you ever want to find anything on Google, you use, or on the internet rather, you use Google. So much so that it became, synonymous with searching. You Googled something, and that's kind of how they took off. Facebook, same sort of thing, as they started as a platform to connect people at various colleges. Actually, I don't even think you could cross colleges for a while. You were actually just kind of in your own little niche world, and you could communicate with other people at your university. But again, it started as a communication platform, and now it's kind of expanded into to like the de facto communication platform for all of the various types of communication on the internet.
And actually, Google and Facebook, if I can jump in real quick, it seems like there's another prong too with Google and Facebook now, which is targeted advertising. And it seems like they're the two big players in that realm, which sort of leads into Amazon and retail. But how are Google and Facebook changing advertising?
Yeah, so Google knows a lot about you mainly from your search habits. They know a lot about you from your search habits and what you click, where you live, and things like that. Facebook knows a lot about you because if you're on Facebook, you tell Facebook a lot about you, like what you like, what you're sharing, what you're talking about. Both these companies know a lot about you. And so they use that information to give you ads for products or services that they think you'll be interested in. And basically what they do is they become a platform for other companies to pay them to get in front of you. So if I'm a boat company, I can pay Facebook to show my ads to people that are likely interested in buying a boat or like water sports or things like that. So they basically use their stranglehold to accumulate a lot of demographic data about you, and then they're selling that data to advertisers.
So I guess that covers how to find stuff on the internet, how to communicate on the internet, how to advertise on the internet. So we need sort of the hardware side of things, the machines you use to access the internet and the machines you use to deliver the internet. So I think those are the last two.
Right. And so you can argue that Google and Apple are still fighting this out a little bit. In my opinion, Google is way behind Apple when it comes to this. So basically, the reason I say that is because Google does offer a Chromebook, but it's such a low end device. It's just not even really relevant yet in developed countries. Chromebooks are kind of distributed in third world countries and things like that. But right now, they're not up to snuff in terms of actually using for a day-to-day device, for a laptop or a desktop type device.
Similar obviously situation, I think, with mobile too, right? As far as iPhones versus Android devices.
Yeah, well, and that's where I kind of don't want to cause a holy war, because people will point out there's a lot more devices out there running Android than there is iOS. Google does obviously kind of control the operating system, and now with the Pixel, they have their own device, and kind of the Nexus is not Google's device, but it is running Android. So a lot of people will say, well, they're competing. Apple, and in some respects, Google's even beating Apple in the mobile market, but Apple has such a foothold in the desktop realm and the mobile realm and the tablet realm that I'm saying that they are the clear-cut winner in controlling on how you access the internet right now.
So I guess the last of the big four, the four horse companies of the apocalypse, would be Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, the interesting thing is, let's take a step back for a second, because we wanted to talk about how they got to that point. And so Apple, I think, has the most interesting story on how they got to this point, because if you go way back in the early 90s, maybe even the late 80s, Apple and Macs were the predominant personal computing devices. And then Microsoft kind of came and wiped them off the map for a long time. And they were on the verge of death. They fired Steve Jobs. The next operating system was a disaster. And the thing that really got them back, the Mac operating systems and the Mac computers were really relegated to niche industries like graphic design and actually the newspaper layout industry. Those were they were very niche. But what got them back into the game was the iPod. The iPod was that device that kind of let Apple make a splash back on the scene and got them known for being kitschy and very user-friendly in terms of design. And then they controlled very tightly all their devices. Like, you can't change the battery on an iPod. You can't change the battery on a laptop, a Mac laptop either. So basically, it was a vertical. they controlled every aspect of the building of the computer, whereas Microsoft was just the operating system, and they kept building stuff kind of piecemeal. The other thing is Apple was very aggressive with saying, if you write software for Apple, but you don't follow our guidelines, we're sorry, when our next operating system comes out, it's not going to work. Microsoft was the opposite. They kind of backed everyone and said, "Oh, okay, well, okay, IRS, you're using software that didn't follow our API, but because you're so big, we'll actually build exceptions into our operating system to support you guys." And so Microsoft started being really crufty, and that's where it gets a bad rap for having security flaws, which now their new operating systems are pretty secure. But for a long time, it had so many problems with the operating system with XP and Vista that it allowed Apple to kind of take hold and grow in the hardware realm.
That is an interesting component too. That the fact that Microsoft is so ubiquitous in the realm of government, and it's so hard to really push anything through on any sort of large scale updates and stuff like that, or updating machines even. It was a huge hindrance to Microsoft itself, because that was such a large component of its bottom line, but it was also keeping them from keeping up with Apple.
Exactly. They were praying to too many gods, and it just kind of pulled their operating system in 100 different directions, or 1,000 different directions.
Yeah, totally. So the last one is Amazon, which is one of the crazier stories of the four, I guess. I mean, it's the scale of Amazon at this point is sort of unfathomable. So how did we get to where we are right now with Amazon?
Yeah, so Amazon, and again, this is probably a story that most people know, started off as a book reseller, and basically just kind of grew from there. And they took advantage of the fact that that they didn't have the overhead of brick and mortars. So they put, much like Walmart, they focused a lot on distribution, on how to get really good at getting products to consumers as cheap as possible. And so they do that through Prime, 2-day delivery type thing. They allow third-party sellers on their platform very easily. So Amazon basically got to be the champion of retail by slashing their prices and basically undercutting pretty much everyone. So much so that a lot of products that they take a loss in order to get it to you quickly and cheaply. The interesting thing is as they were growing to become this massive e-commerce platform, they had this interesting problem or interesting opportunity. They had so much compute power that a lot of times they had excess. They had excess servers. They basically had excess capacity in terms of delivering digital content. So they basically said, what can we do with this? And they came up with AWS. And so AWS, which you've probably heard of because it's now they're pushing it everywhere. I saw it when I was watching the playoffs. They have advertisements. A lot of the NFL is brought to you by AWS. Well, basically, Amazon said, let's sell our excess compute capacity to other people who could use it. And again, probably another episode. This is the nexus of cloud computing. And long story short, Amazon allows other companies to operate on their infrastructure for a cost, for basically they're leasing space and compute power in their cloud. So Amazon has been very proactive in taking advantage of opportunities that grow out of their main business model. Prime TV is another example. As they were sort of building up their cloud, they were realizing they had a lot of capability that they weren't using. And so they came up with Prime TV, which is ways to deliver video content to their Prime memberships.
So AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, is basically powering the internet at this point, and Amazon itself is basically powering retail at this point. Actually, an interesting sidebar maybe is which is up there with Netflix in terms of original content. That's one thing we haven't really touched on, but do you foresee technology companies, especially with YouTube too, which we're streaming live on right now, do you foresee these big four maybe taking over content itself away from the traditional Disney, Universal, Sony producers of original content, Fox, CBS, all that stuff?
Yeah, it'll be a long war. But you have like you said, you have YouTube Red now. Apple is developing its own original content. Hulu is developing its own original content. Netflix is developing its own original content, and Amazon is developing its own original content. I'm sure I've forgotten a couple out there. But there's a lot of advantages to this over the traditional production type model, and a lot of actors and players in the industry really like it. It's going to be a fight, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. I think what you'll probably see is a consolidation. I keep saying watch out for Amazon to buy Netflix, or Amazon to buy Hulu, or someone up there, or Apple. I mean, one of these companies, Apple or Amazon, that just have a boatload of cash on hand to buy one of these companies, and then at that point, when there's consolidation at the top, and say Amazon has Amazon Prime and Netflix, then they really can make a run at, say, Disney or whatever, and that's the reason why Disney purchased Fox and is now a controlling shareholder in Hulu, and they're developing their own streaming content platform, because they realize that this is going to be kind of a battle for the digital content rights.
Is that your dog in the background?
Yeah,
is that the puppy?
He wanted to come in, so he was scratching at the door, and now he wants to get out. So I don't know. He just needs to be happy.
Well, we got a little bit of time left, so I guess one last question would be: is there any other realm that these big four are potentially going to invade and take over? Is there anything left for them to poach?
Well, yeah, actually, and kind of tying episodes together, we talked about this a little bit. There's two off the top of my head. I'm sure we can think of a lot more, but there's two big ones. And the ISP industry is a big one, and Google is moving in on the ISP industry. We talked about net neutrality in a previous episode, and Google has an inherent interest in net neutrality. And so they're going to fight Comcast and AT&T and all those to kind of, even if they don't have to, implement net neutrality. So Google's laying fiber all across the country. They're making a major move into the ISP network, or ISP industry. And then the other one that you have to look out for, and I don't know that either of these are major players in there yet, but the energy industry is a big one. And interestingly enough, with the deregulation and the support that the U.S. right now is giving to older non-renewable type energies like coal, we're under the current administration, we're kind of promoting older type energies. It gives these technology companies a chance to kind of invent new energy sources, or at least perfect new energy sources, which it's interesting because it may, by supporting the coal industry, it may actually hasten the death of the coal industry, because it allows for more innovation by these big companies to kind of supplant coal.
Interesting. Well, we'll leave it there. Tune in next week for for part 2, which is we're going to try and figure out if anyone can even compete with the big four at this point, or what anyone can do to stop them, or even if it's worth it for anyone to try and stop them. Maybe we should just embrace our new overlords. So next week, Thursday, 1:00 Eastern time. Check out this podcast on iTunes. Check out our blog post on gunnertech.com. Keep an eye out for our JavaScript ebook, which should be coming out soon on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere else ebooks are sold. I think that covers it. Cody, thanks again for joining.
Yeah, and don't forget to go sign up for the contest on Facebook. I pinned it.
That's
to
the one thing I
forgot. Yep.
Yeah, check us out. Check out Country Store on Facebook, or on our Gunner Technology page, and sign up for that. And check out countryshoreoutfitters.com for a whole bunch of cool gear. And that does it for this week. We'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for joining. See ya.